Face front, true believers, Bluedragonfive here.
And Rohith Dhar.
Over 10 years ago, Marvel's Daredevil stood above the rest and showed us the quality storytelling other shows were blind to. Now, with its official return, the burden falls to us to discern the truth by asking the question: will the new show measure up to the original? Join us as we start Discerning Daredevil Born Again, Season 2, Episode 7, The Hateful Darkness. So yeah, this is the penultimate episode of the season, and just in, the show got picked up for a fourth season. So we are well underway.
Yeah, it's notably not an action heavy episode, but in spite of that, I think it does a good job in terms of advancing the character arcs for all of the main people in the narrative. It highlights, the stakes of what's going on both politically and personally, and I think this, as well as sort of the past 4 or 5 episodes, it it really gets to the heart of what makes Daredevil such a noteworthy property in both the Netflix and in this era. It's emphasizing the conflict between vengeance and justice, how to maintain one's integrity in a corrupt system, and sort of the dalliance between, you know, observing one's flaws and still loving them in spite of said flaws or because of the flaws. And I think this episode really personifies like what makes, Daredevil such an interesting character to follow, what makes his world fascinating to watch, and what makes his cast of supporting characters worthwhile to invest time and energy to, especially in light of the fates of some of these characters in this season as well, and especially this episode.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, there's a lot of the thesis statement for kind of what Daredevil is, and just kind of a flavor for the world. I think you're absolutely on point with that. So yeah, let's not delay. Let's break down the plot. So here's a little summary of the plot.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so Karen Page. Honestly, it's very simple. It's a pretty straightforward episode in terms of the plot. So Karen Page is put on trial as illegally as possible. Uh, Daniel Blake makes a choice regarding handing a BB Urich over to Buck,
Mm-hmm.
which ultimately leads to his demise. Karen and Heather Glenn, they have a memorable interaction. Bullseye, he saves the governor. Matt Murdock reemerges to defend Karen Page in court, and the task force tries to kill him. And
Mm-hmm.
Jessica Jones arrives to save a wounded and desperate Matt Murdock, and that is the episode.
Yes.
See, pretty simple.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's start breaking down the arcs as we like to. We like to pray to the patron saint of Murdoch. Let's talk about Matt Murdock. So Matt, yeah, he's honestly for both seasons of Born Again, but especially this season, he's internalized a lot of the struggle this season.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of people would say like, man, Daredevil's really not the main character of his own show, but as you said, this episode's very much kind of in celebration of supporting characters, but by just in a wider expansion of that, it's that we spent 3 seasons we know Daredevil like the back of our hands. We know how Matt Murdock is, how he operates. We already know that, and the show having the continuity greenlit, they don't have to worry about reestablishing that. It's really kind of how he's kind of internalizing that struggle and kind of like us kind of seeing again that this season especially is about him as a symbol, which we've kind of firmly established. It's like we don't really need to spend a lot of time on him. We just need to kind of show that okay, he's kind of shouldering the burden, and he's kind of thinking through these things, and he's making these when he makes the big moves. That's when we can really kind of discern the character on him. So yeah, he's based on where we left him last episode, which kind of is the shadow over this episode. He's he's a little guilt. He's feeling guilt over the inability to think of a solution to Fisk. That solution for Fisk. Well, Fisk, of course, is now currently endangering Karen Page's life, and this is pushing him to consider his options. And he's making some really big swings, and again, might lead. You kind of sense that it's going to lead to a very unexpected, but very kind of a sacrificial move on his part.
Mm-hmm.
So that's so I like that we're kind of building that track. And we could. There's a slim. I think it's kind of been telegraphed thanks to the stupid media, just just kind of like spoiling everything. But it's thematically just based on like the building blocks, assuming what comes to pass might come to pass, which we'll find out next week.
Yeah.
I think we're laying things out pretty well here for that. Matt is like he's out of moves except an unexpected move. Like the only move, and so I love that in the course of this season, and I kind of mentioned this earlier. I think it was last episode, the episode before. I love how we've kind of inverted the usual formula for kind of our finales here, where it's thematically we always have the separation of Matt Murdock and Daredevil, and it's fitting that Matt Murdock is the one who saves is the only one who can really save the day here. And we've inverted the pattern that is usually we build a case with Matt Murdock, and then when that falls through, or like seemingly we win the day, then Daredevil steps in as the hammer to really nail it. Mm-hmm. And we've inverted it here. We've had a lot of Daredevil. We've had minimal Matt Murdock, and by design here. So it's like we've engineered our story so the only move that Matt has that Daredevil has right now is for Matt Murdock to return, which is like a trump card that Fisk has used against him, which he is now using against Fisk, which is rather clever, and I love it. And it's the only way he can ensure Karen gets at least a semblance of a fair trial. At the very least, he's around in case something goes down and somebody tries to make a move.
It's interesting inverse because the first season, like into some people's criticism, like it was mostly Matt, and then there's a bit of a move to get back into the Daredevil side of things, and now it's kind of in second season it's been mainly Matt as Daredevil, and he hasn't come back as like the full civilian Matt Murdock till this episode. So I'm wondering if the third season is going to be like, all right, it's not just Matt, it's not just I'm Matt Murdock the lawyer or I'm Daredevil the vigilante. I am both or something more beyond it.
Yeah,
that's what I feel, because I think the whole idea of being born again is that for the Netflix Marvel show, it's like Matt started as this kind of like burgeoning vigilante who over the course of 3 seasons has developed his own mythology, his own like impact upon the city. Because I think that I always make that to the one character who I love for him to have shown up later on. He's Daredevil, and then in these 2 seasons, especially the third season, it's about all right, he's Daredevil and Matt Murdock. And then something more. So I think there's going to be a lot to analyze about the sense of identity duality, which is interesting because, as much as like people may not love the comparisons, I think those are interesting issues that I've dealt with on the DC side of things, like Superman, Batman, and then Marvel's only been really Spider-Man. So Daredevil kind of grappling with those kind of sense of self-identity expression and like what is it to be a hero and a man and to be both or more. That is something that makes this character so enticing to create art of and to watch art of in the comics and TV.
Yeah, I love that it's ultimately Matt Murdock fighting for law in New York when Kingpin has unbalanced the scales so much. And of course, the visual dichotomy between the giant the giant fat Kingpin versus kind of our wiry in shape vigilante, or kind of in the sense of like like kind of the scales of justice. Like Kingpin has all of his weight on the scale, so to speak. Sorry, it's an obvious observation. I don't know. It's just kind of funny to me. It's like literally Kingpin could not have on skills any more of all the characters to do that. In terms of like the weight and the power that guy holds.
Mm-hmm.
But so by the end of this episode, so again, I like that. Again, I love early in the season we saw him like watching Jack Duquesne or like listening to Jack Duquesne's trial. It's being utterly disgusted by, we didn't really draw a fine point on it, but I felt it, and I liked that it was there. Is the idea that, the law is sacred to Matt Murdock because that's the life his father wanted for him. It's him honoring his father when he's when he's a successful lawyer, when he's like one of the best lawyers in New York. And it's just the fact that like Kingpin really, Kingpin has kind of insulted like the personal things for Matt Murdock in the sense of law, and also in the Fogwell's gym and the art of boxing, like all these kind of these little personal screw yous from Fisk, and I love that he's kind of like taking it to Fisk here, taking it to the legal mat, as it were.
Yeah.
Where he's he's just kind of restoring the law that the Kingpin has destroyed to show him that there are some things he can't destroy. And it was hopefully, I hope we're going to be able to somehow. It'll be impressive if he's able to go in that courtroom again and somehow exonerate Karen Page. I would love for that to happen. I have a feeling he's going to use his trump card to save the day, which I mean, still going to be impressive, but it's still, that's probably going to be how he somehow pulls out a victory. But anyway, by the end of this episode, he's wounded and he's really, he's in rough shape. He's wounded and he's beaten. He's basically suffering from a very rough 2 seasons if you really look at it. Between seasons 1 and 2, he's just been really put through the ringer. He needs an assist, and it's kind of the it's a true test to see how Daredevil as a symbol and kind of as a hero has impacted New York with like his friends and the people that he inspires, especially like the most reluctant of people, showing up to kind of back him up here. And it's kind of what even though we don't have the full weight of that because some people are busy overseas, and we'll get there. But he's it's just kind of nice seeing like things kind of paying off here, and I really feel. I mean, look, I'm fingers crossed. I don't know until the last episode here, but it feels like we're really gonna address the whole Daredevil as a symbol having impacted the city in a positive way, and that might Jessica Jones is kind of one really significant example, but there are others, I'm sure.
Yeah, no, and I think it's I appreciate that this season of Born Again. I think it's like, oh, we're bringing Daredevil back, but it's not really just bringing Daredevil back. It's bringing back the Marvel Netflix world, Which I think Jessica Jones, the way Matt and Jessica Jones interacts, it gives me fond memories of how they interacted in Defenders, and
it's a very brother sister kind of dynamic.
Yeah, and it feels, and I appreciate that the show isn't just like we acknowledge only Daredevil and nothing else. Clearly, these people are fans of the wider Marvel Netflix universe. And in light of what's been revealed in leaks for season 3, I think it'd be very interesting to see if through Daredevil, after maybe the 3rd season will be the last season, and then you'll have more flesh or having time to shine for Jessica Jones, Luke Cage, Iron Fist, and maybe other new Marvel Street heroes like White Tiger, for example.
Yeah. Yep. By the way, I'm just saying, season 4. Now that we know we're going forward with this, Stiltman, season 4. Give us Stiltman.
I mean, season 4 hasn't been greenlit.
No, it has. Yeah.
Wait, when?
It came in today.
Hold on, I need.
That's why I said earlier in the podcast. It was they got the. I'm pretty sure it got the green light.
No, I don't see. That would have been. I would have gotten news about that. I think it's been. I think there's been a great. I mean, obviously season 3 is because I think maybe you got wires crossed.
Oh, no, I mean, I saw. Look, it says. Yeah, it looks like IGN.
I do that. Well, I don't see it. Like on a Google search does not show season 4 renewal.
Great. Oh well. Okay, you know what? Yeah, sorry about that. I just realized I looked into it a little further. Yeah, it was a false news. I'm sorry, folks, but it's hopeful thinking. They're open to doing more seasons, so who knows? My bad.
All right.
Yeah, no, I know Rohith's right. I screwed that one up. Yeah, sorry.
Well,
it would have been really impressive though if they already got like a greenlit season 4 from here. But I will say this though. I am actually speaking of that real quick. I was really hopeful with that potential season 4 news because and here in light of I've been hearing the viewership has not been with the show somehow.
Yeah, but I don't think that's specific to this show. I think part of it is that streaming shows, and it's not even a matter of like, oh, if they release annually or a few years, because the thing is, Marvel Netflix Daredevil had declining viewership, and season 3 didn't had come out like what 3 years after. It's not like a big time gap. I think it's just a matter of like, I think for most shows, especially shows that aren't streaming services, they're competing with other shows in the inner streaming service, and then with just other streaming services as well. So attentions are divided. It's kind of hard for any one show to really dominate the cultural conversation and have viewership stay consistent or increase over time. So in my mind, I think season 3, I wouldn't be surprised if season 3 is the last season of Born Again. And it's the same decision making that led to Netflix ending Daredevil after 3 seasons.
Well, I guess with that said, like, dear God, please work in Stiltman this season 3 before the lights go out, please.
Honestly, I could see him show up in a Spider-Man movie.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I want him to show up somewhere. Again, if Daredevil has appearances like confirmed, like post, like his own show, I mean, that would be absolutely. I'm saying the way we got Leapfrog is absolutely the way we do Stiltman,
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, it's anyway. I've derailed things with Stiltman. I feel bad. All right, like my co-counsel agrees. We're just going to move on. So, let's talk about Fisk. There's not a lot with Fisk this episode, but we do have there's one. Probably should have mentioned this. We're going to save like the opening scene with Fisk for later on, so let's not break that one down too much. All right.
Okay.
But overall, with Fisk, Fisk, if I'm reading my read on Fisk is that he's kind of facing an ambivalency about his empire. He doesn't want to surrender. I think right now all Fisk is concerned with is he doesn't want to relinquish power because the closest thing he has to honoring Vanessa is honoring like the legacy of power that they have. So it's kind of he's willing to burn it all down, but by the same token, he doesn't want to lose it only because of like the work that it took to get there and the fact that Vanessa approved of it. So I think it's like he's willing to burn it down, but he doesn't want to just like let somebody take it from him, if that makes any sense.
That makes sense.
So so he's wreaking havoc. As far as the way I read Fisk, he's like, as long as I still have the job, I'm gonna wreak havoc on Daredevil and the Vigilantes. Well, until they tell me I can't. Mm-hmm. I'm going to do what I can to hold on to that, but we'll see. Because right now, going after the governor is his only move to really prevent that from happening.
Yep.
So, like I said, he's kind of honoring this power here, but it's like, but without Vanessa, I think the big interesting question with Kingpin that we have here, and maybe going between this and season 3 or wherever we're going with the Kingpin, it just feels like. The idea, it's like it's kind of an identity thing with him. Like, it's like him kind of wondering. It's an interesting question of like, who is the Kingpin? Who is this Kingpin? Who is he without Vanessa and without the power that these are the two elements that have defined him. What is he going to have if he loses those two things? And I think that's why he's like kind of plotting moves to maintain what he's got. Mm-hmm. Because we see he's playing a little scared this episode. He's a little vulnerable, which is kind of in parallel to Daredevil, who's very vulnerable by the end of the episode, with Karen in peril. So he's kind of, again, with the whole, kind of our running parallels of Kingpin and Daredevil. It's like, the love of his life is kind of in danger. And, he's on the back foot. They both are. Despite Kingpin technically holding all the cards, which I found very interesting. Emotionally, he's just, he's Humpty Dumpty. He's fallen. He can't keep the goo inside.
Yeah.
The yoke. We kind of see with the he himself is unsure about what happens next, and I think we kind of see that in the episode to some degree. The earring scene for like the earring scene, I think we have in the episode where like I know it's kind of a leap, but I'm saying with that it's such a weird like the way he's talking with Heather Glenn about the earring. It's like the end of that scene suggests like sometimes we do things impulsively. That to me suggests that it's like even he's not sure where he's grieving and he's not sure where it's taking him. He's just acting emotionally and impulsively, and it's just he's just kind of spiraling, and he kind of knows it. I mean, did you
I
get that
think
vibe at all?
I think it goes beyond grief. I think there's an acknowledgement on Wilson Fisk's part, and this is something that the Netflix show I think also addresses that. For as much as Wilson Fisk puts on the airs of being a gentleman, a cultured connoisseur, um, a man of high society, deep down, he is as much of an animal, a thug, and a brutish individual as his father was, and he just has better clothing to hide that brutality. And I think in that kind of dialogue with Heather, it's as much of an admission of that he's also an animal. He's also a person of want, desire, and not lust, but just id. And as much as Vanessa held him back, it's kind of a very long leash that Vanessa had for Wilson. So, is it really the case that Wilson is someone who is a calm, rational, composed individual, or is he someone that is literally the human personification of a tiger in a cage? And and it's in this situation where the bars of said cage have eroded to their utmost weakest point. So, I think in a certain way, it's kind of this weird, maladjusted, dysfunctional kinship with Heather. I think he also, and I think the way he addressed Heather is sort of evocative or similar to how he addressed Bullseye or Poindexter season 3 of Marvel Netflix Daredevil, where he has this kind of recognition in the animal, this kind of being this force of nature, and maybe in his mind he might just manipulate Heather to be the next muse or whatever, just as Kingpin manipulated Poindexter to be Bullseye.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it kind of takes me back to the whole microcosm of the animal world.
I am the ill attent.
Well, yeah, but still, I mean, honestly, that does kind of give you an insight to Kingpin without Vanessa really in his core. I mean, Vanessa's like the island in the storm that they sail into in prison, but essentially, it's that is kind of Kingpin, kind of with everything taken away from him, kind of rebuilding himself.
Yeah.
You know.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so let's talk about Karen Page. Speaking of her, so Karen, this is a big Karen episode. First and foremost, that's one of the big takeaways here. She is. I love that she's back in a position. She's back in almost the same position she was in season 1 when she met Matt and Foggy, but she is. She has been through a lot. She's been through a lot since that first episode way back when, so she's a lot more armed for the situation than she was. I mean, she's still in need of Matt Murdock to defend her to an extent, but she's not necessarily helpless until he shows up.
Yeah.
Which is really really cool to see. I think this episode when they meet each other briefly thanks to a certain character. She regrets how harshly she's kind of judged Matt. They had a little bit of a fight before her arrest, and it's she's worried that she's forced him into a dangerous position that threatens his life and his freedom. And I think she kind of sees the writing on the wall. Like when she was concerned, she wasn't concerned he's going to kill the Kingpin because that's kind of what she wants. She's not concerned about that. She's concerned about Matt throwing it all away and making some big moves, like coming back as like Daredevil, coming back as Matt Murdock, which could very much endanger his freedom and his life and make him a public target.
Mm-hmm.
This episode, Karen gets humiliated and insulted and beaten and all these things, most of them by Heather Glenn. And it is, she's not, again, she's not backing down. She's dishing it out as much as she's getting it.
Yeah.
She would make Frank proud, and I love that's kind of the vibe you get in this episode. Like Frank's so proud of her.
Karen is a badass woman. She's gritted her teeth and been through hell and come back, with a smile on her face. and vulnerability in her eyes, and that's what makes and all that is Deborah Ann Woll's performance, the writing for when it sings for that character. That's why when she was out for most of season one, they felt like there was something missing, and you know one could argue that you wish there was a little bit more focus on the characterization, and maybe the 8 episodes is a limit on that. That ability to let scenes breathe and go into characterization. But I think ultimately, this is her moment to shine, and she doesn't let go. She holds her own, both in the universe of the show and both as an actress in the scene. Uh, one could say it's like Karen's been down this path before, so maybe you could say it's a bit of a rethread. But I think part of it is just this is her kind of, in all the words, just saying out loud, I recognize Matt is a contradictory, flawed human being, but I love him in spite of and because of it. And that radical acceptance is such a departure and kind of an interesting contrast to Heather, who is a therapist, someone who is supposed to understand, evaluate, and ultimately accept a person to the degree in which they can have room to grow and room to change and grow. And in her relationship with Matt, whenever she became a therapist to Matt, he just shut down and didn't, let her in. And in a way, I think Heather's jealous that he could just never have that in with Matt that Karen does. And maybe in the next season, when Heather kind of goes crazy and becomes Muse or whatever, maybe in a way, Matt and Heather might actually understand each other better than they ever have.
I guess just to piggyback to Heather Glenn is maybe the other half of this. Yeah, she's unraveling. She's she's caught stealing Vanessa's earring again because it has a vague Muse look to it, perhaps, or it's like she's just kind of like doing things impulsively. It's a little unclear.
There's red, reminds her of her ex boyfriend who had red sunglasses and the devil.
That's possible as well. A lot of things going wrong upstairs with that lady. So yeah, I think she genuinely mourns Vanessa, and she values, what the Fisk family, has done for and been there for and everything. But it's also just, completely, she's completely buying into it. She's she realizes it's wrong, but she doesn't really, she's kind of like, it's kind of she's in too deep, kind of a thing, or like in denial of like, okay, the side I'm on is the bad side, but I've been through it, and vigilantes they're all terrible. She's just kind of dealing in absolutes, it seems, or like even if she's seeing the logic, she's not going to acknowledge it. She's that far gone, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Like emotionally, she seems emotionally very fragile, despite the strong front that she's putting on. But it was a great scene, man. The two love interest of Matt Murdock, and clearly there was always some tension there. Like when Matt was in the hospital, he was calling for Karen, not for Heather. So there was always this was a big scene. Um, yeah, the fact that Heather Glenn, the fact that she plays dirty and unethically, but she, Karen does not back down, does not get scared, and just kind of gives it as good as she gets it from Heather. And I just love the irony is that the two of them have a lot in common in terms of like kind of being kind of victims and just kind of being like in these positions of vulnerability, and Daredevil saving them, but having gone in these diametrically opposite directions in processing their traumas.
Yeah.
Like Heather, I think the difference fundamentally is that Heather always had the disconnect from Matt, where Karen had Matt, even though it was at times at arm's length, but he was very much present and he tried being there. And Heather, he was just kind of checked out, without kind of like foggy as the glue, so to speak. It's like Matt's just kind of like, I think fundamentally it's like you always have foggy as the glue with Nelson Murdoch and Paige, and on the flip side Heather was like it's kind of Matt without foggy, and she's kind of getting the worst Matt Murdoch. It's like kind of it probably is like it's too late to repair any damage for Heather Glenn. She's very much on a trajectory of Muse the sequel.
To Muse to Muser. No, it's to Muse to artistic.
Amusement.
Muse is the sequel.
Muse 2 Strikes Back.
Muse the sequel, The Search for More Art.
We really need Jason Mewes to be revealed to be the hallucination of Muse.
Have that be a Kevin Smith written and directed episode.
Yeah, he pulls off the mask like Snoochie Boochies, something like that. Just anyway.
And it's all in New Jersey.
What?
It's all in New Jersey.
Yeah.
I got that Kamala Khan.
Well, remember, we teased up like, again, Matt was supposed to have dinner with the Khans, but then all the bad stuff happened.
Mm-hmm.
Muse 2, Electric Boogaloo.
Yeah.
All right, so let's talk Bullseye.
Mm-hmm.
So Bullseye, he and Daredevil, they seemingly part ways here. He is not redeemed, but he is but he's given the opportunity to make his own choices, and unstable as they may be. So some people, it's a little unclear. I don't. My read on it, I guess my hope with how I read it, it's pretty kind of coding with my own expectations. But I really read it as it's less like, hey, Bullseye's going on the the anti-hero path, the side of angels, perhaps. I think of it more as like he got closure, he was offered forgiveness and kind of a chance to at least right a wrong in some sense. In some sense he created this whole mess. In a big sense, he created this whole mess. With the whole, in saving the governor, Red Hook was the matter. Basically, Red Hook was the thing that got Foggy killed in the first place, and that's why he was manipulated and he was used to kill Foggy. So, in doing what he's doing, it's not just like one kill for another, so to speak. It's just more so like, hey, you killing Foggy, created this Red Hook mess. This is your chance to at least do some good, or really kind of balance the scales, at least in that sense. And that's kind of like that's the solace that he takes. I don't view him as an anti-hero by the end of this. I view him more as it's like there's still the there's still like going to be like that that tension, that instability in the guy, but it's I think it's like an earned parting of ways, so to speak. Like, he, like when he says, I can't make any promises, he still has like kind of that devious smile there, where it's just like, I think at the end of this, like Bullseye's reward, like the arc by the end of the season, I don't necessarily think we're going to see him in the last episode. At the very least, if we see him, it'll be like a tease of like, oh, he's out there. I think it's basically Dex is now tasked with, okay, look, find your own North Star. It can't be Daredevil. It's got to be his own thing. And, with this newfound sense of freedom and making his own choice and being his own North Star, what I'd like to see him end up, kind of like either, probably they say gun for hire out of boredom. That's kind of what I want for Bullseye. I don't know if it's going to be what it is. I don't know if we're going to even see him next season. I don't know. Or, he could just, be a happy guy, like he was at the opening of the Gloves Off, just kind of going about his day, but killing anyone who ticks him off. And maybe that's where the instability comes in, Could be working for Mr. Charles. Any number of things could happen with Bullseye. So, maybe that's ultimately what his path is, where, he's kind of doing something seemingly for the greater good. That's kind of his North Star anti-hero kind of thing. And he's, but he has a way of just kind of killing indiscriminately.
Yeah,
but for a purpose that's seemingly good, which is kind of what he's doing with the task force guy. So any number of things you could read in for a Bullseye by the end. The point being, Bullseye does achieve his one good deed thing that he had wanted to the whole season. So we paid off his arc pretty well.
Absolutely.
I mean, I think. I mean, do you disagree or?
No, I think there's some merit to that. I think it's interesting so far, and like for Daredevil to let Bullseye loose to save the governor, and it's like, okay, Bullseye is not going to go for a non-violent solution. So I don't know if his mind's like, if Daredevil can reconcile that I'm letting Bullseye do the right thing, and how he goes about the right thing, that's on him and not on me. Because I feel like that's the only way that Matt cannot be guilty of letting Bullseye go about the way he does. In normal human morality, like, it's justified to kill someone in self-defense or to prevent them killing another person. But, Bullseye is skilled enough that he could just knock someone out rather than kill them.
Yeah, did the assailant look dead or just like incapacitated? Because I think he looked more incapacitated than dead.
I don't know he got stabbed with both fingers in hands, and then he gets stabbed in the back of the head. I feel like I don't know if you want to be alive for the long lasting brain trauma.
One thing I didn't see. I can't remember. So he got stabbed in the head.
Yeah, because
No, I remember we lingered on a shot where he had like the darts like in his arms and stuff. But that was I saw like in the arms. It seemed like that disarmed him and seemingly like non-lethally.
Because I don't remember hearing any groaning or whatever. But
I don't know. He was beaten too. Like he was like I don't know if Bullseye hit him after he like did the target thing or he just did the target thing, which could imply
that. Projectiles. I assume he killed him. Because he's not bleeding, so I don't know if that's just like
there's like a little blood, but it's like just from the impact of like the darts and stuff. It's not like profusely or anything, so I don't know.
Well, I think like someone has to rewatch the episode and kind of zoom in and pause at that moment. But
I'm just saying they lingered on with the camera that he had like like he had seemingly non-lethal wounds on the arm when we saw the guy taken down. So I don't know. Mm-hmm. It seems like we were focused on like brutal death than like non-lethal wounds.
Yeah,
it seemed like that was the point, but I don't know. Mm-hmm. All right. Anyway, Bunty and Bullseye is cool. All right. Let's see. So last but not least, Daniel Blake.
Yeah, I really appreciated where Daniel Blake ended up in this episode, and it's so interesting because I remember last season, it's like people thought he was an annoying character, and I think you expressed like you didn't love how he was acted. Because I feel like in your mind or the way you express is that the way he acts and like the way Kingpin responds, kind of felt more comedic and not as like in the tone of the Marvel Netflix. But in this season, like where Daniel began the season and ended, it's not on the level of a Ray Nadeem or whatever, but I think it's a really great arc for a supporting character. And also, Michael Gandolfini like plays to what Daniel is as a character, and there's never anything that feels false. Like his transformation, his hesitation, his like back and forth with other supporting characters. Like it's crazy to see a supporting character in a Daredevil show that has an interesting arc and interesting like characterization, and he doesn't share any scenes with Daredevil or Maverick.
That's true. Not a one.
Yeah, and I guess it just speaks to like not just either the writing of the character and or Michael Gandolfini's performance. He made that character who seemed like kind of a schlub or just like an annoying fanboy to someone who's like has genuine depth and humanity. Like he feels like one of the more real characters in not just in this show, but really in a lot of MCU projects.
This was adorable. In the after show thing, the official Daredevil podcast.
Yeah,
once probably far more viewed than ours. Ours is official in our hearts and minds.
Yeah, it's official in this community.
Yeah, no, but seriously, the one where they actually have the stars and the writers and the creatives talk about the show, the Insider podcast. Mm-hmm. Michael Gandolfini was talking to the actress who plays the governor, mm-hmm. and this is adorable. He just Michael Gandolfini. He really likes ducks. And it was the cutest thing. And what I loved about it is like the meta thing where he likes ducks, and Tony Soprano from The Sopranos. His whole thing is his whole arc and his whole story is predicated on loving ducks. I just found it so cute.
Oh wow! And I don't know that is such a like. You just like ducks as like an animal or like,
yeah, that's the thing. It was like the whole there was like they do this game called Truth or Daredevil where they kind of like ask either personal questions or character based questions. Anyway, so he did like Truth or whatever, and he says like what animal what's your favorite animal or some such stuff, and he said ducks, and he just kind of went on about like, oh man, I love ducks, I would love to adopt a duck, and he's just going through all this thing about how much he likes ducks.
I mean, in light of Elvin Henson being one of the Mighty Ducks, it's kind of funny to, there's a revival of the Mighty Ducks on the Disney Plus platform, especially from the Game Changer show. Michael Gandolfini just needs to play a new coach or just a new character in that show.
Yeah.
Alas.
Yeah, but it was just cute and made me think of the whole thing where Tony Soprano and like the pilot of The Sopranos, and they do it. They address it a few other times, like more symbolically and thematically. But it's the idea that he was so giddy, like this tough mobster is like, hey, the ducks, they're in the pool. They left the pool. They flew for the winter. It was this whole the ducks symbolic of the family and everything. Anyway. I don't know. I just thought it was kind of cute and just kind of trippy. Anyway, so in all seriousness about Daniel Blake, you're right. Mike Gandolfini, of course, tremendous in this episode. It was sad to see him go, but it was kind of an inevitability if he did not. I really thought. Well, here's the thing. I knew he was gonna die. I really wondered how that scene was gonna go. I thought BB was gonna kill him himself. That's what I thought was gonna happen.
I was right in how I predicted it would go.
No, you're right. Yeah, but I was right about another thing.
You were partially right, and
come on! I was right about the.
You were right that Luke was the one that was under the employer Charles, but the reasoning was.
No, I'm just saying that you kept fighting me on. Oh, it can't be Luke. It can't. I'm saying it was Luke.
Okay, I agree. I concede that it was Luke, but I feel like your reasoning for why Luke would be under Charles's employ was flawed, and the reasoning provided in the show was closer to what I suggested would be the reason why Luke would be under Charles.
You can't just let me have like the win, can you? You just can't.
You get half a win.
I just want you kept saying like, oh, it should be Trish.
Well, no, because
no way it was gonna be Trish. I told you it was gonna be Luke. Everything indicated it was gonna be Luke.
The record show, if you watch our last Discerning Daredevil, I said if Luke was under Charles' employ, it is not by voluntary choice. He's coerced. He's under duress.
Yes, but again, you're ignoring all the stuff lead up to that. I kept having to say it. You're saying if it's Luke, and I kept saying it's gonna be Luke. It's Luke. Clearly, it's Luke. And you're saying no, it's.
But I asked, what is the reason why Luke would be under Charles' employ? And you said, oh, it's a heroes for hire thing.
Where I said that was one of many possibilities. I didn't say it was the thing. I said it could have been.
Ladies and gentlemen, if I referred to our prior episode, Dragon did not at all said, hey, except to say, hey, if Luke is going to be the one and he's going to be, and it's because he's being forced to work for Charles because to save his family, whatever. I think
I laid that as one of the possibilities. I don't know. I'm not saying I called it exactly. I'm just saying I think I said like he could have been blackmailed or something.
No, but like okay, but you didn't. But like you entertained the other option where it's like, oh, you just get paid money to be employed for Charles, where that is not consistent with the character that we've seen of Luke Cage in the more old Netflix shows.
Anyway, my point is it clearly was Luke Cage, and I blame you for making me doubt that it was Luke Cage. It's the reason I have paranoia, folks. I have a skilled attorney who's saying, no, it can't possibly be. It's got to be true.
It is you can get the right answer, but your reasoning has to be sound. Your reasoning was not sound.
Well, my reasoning for why it was Luke was sound.
You can't. Okay, if this was like a math class and you gave me the answer, but you didn't have like a good solution or didn't show your work, or you didn't say, hey, how did you get to the answer? I'm not going to give you credit for
I gave you reasons why it couldn't be Trish.
Yeah, but you had to commit.
Process of elimination. It would have to be who does Jessica Jones know that people would know?
I'll give you the full win if that will make you happy. Jeez.
Anyway. Okay, so we're just gonna get back to the subject of Daniel Blake if we can.
Yes, about Daniel Blake.
All right. So Daniel Blake, he's struggling with the inevitable choice of him or BB, which is what his whole story is. The crux of his whole story has been this season because he knew very early on it's obviously BB. Who's leaking everything that he's telling her, and it's like no matter what, every time he just wants to maintain this friendship, possible romance, however you want to label it, this dynamic with BB, but it just keeps biting him in the end and leading to this inevitable choice. And it's like Daniel Blake ultimately he was always a people pleaser, and the danger of that is like trying to please everybody, and that's kind of the age old. Like you can only please some of the people some of the time, and like I said, none of the people all the time. Something, and it's just the fact that it's the fact that he kind of was trying to again, kind of in the sense the Daredevil's a show that's very much built on duality and built on like the whole lawyer by day, vigilante by night thing. Is the idea that people have more than one side to themselves, and the idea that Daniel Blake, he he tried to have again we saw like his soft underbelly and just kind of like the softer side to himself and the humanity kind of through the BB stuff and kind of what he wants in life. And on the flip side, he's trying to have a dynamic with her, but of course, to do that, he has to put himself at risk and just let her manipulate him, even though he knows that she's doing it. And on the flip side, you have Buck. Buck is a powerful friend to have. He and Buck have kind of a bit of a friendship going on there, but at the same time, Buck is very dangerous, and he knows he's very dangerous, and he knows that Buck is very much holding an axe over his head to destroy the thing that he likes. So
Yeah.
something had to give at some point.
No, and I think like for Daniel to really think about like what the path he's choosing would lead to. I think I do appreciate that it's all at the last minute, right? It's not like he's a guy who thinks that far ahead. He's just kind of like reacting to what's in front of him. And I think when he saw what was really in front of him about what happens after he gives BB to Buck, like I think ultimately that reveals his character, because he knows that's you know it's going to end for him. Um, and I think for nothing else, you know, deep down, the people pleaser thing goes both ways. Like, yeah, he'll want to get on your good side, but ultimately he likes people. He likes to feel important. He likes to be, just someone that's of importance, and that's why for BB, someone who's a journalist, like she makes him feel that way, and there's sort of some level of romantic connection or feelings towards that. It's not unjustified or unwarranted. And I think it's a tragedy for Daniel to have kind of hitch his wagon to someone like Kingpin versus if he just had, hitch his wagon to any other mayor before or after Kingpin.
Yeah. It's like if there is any Fisk in Daniel Blake in terms of like the protege kind of element, it's that ultimately love, or at least the maybe the illusion of love, was kind of his undoing. I'm not saying it's directly what they were doing, but it's just kind of like it's like the affection that he had for BB and just the humanity that was within him, like like his blind spot being kind of his love for people overall. It's kind of what that's what the undoing is. He almost did it. I love that he had laid a pretty good trap for her there. He almost let her there, but he just he lets her go, and I like that he's I know I like that in the end. He took it like a man, kind of. He didn't give in the buck. He didn't tell him anything. He's honestly he didn't know, and just it's interesting that he get Daniel Blake's his effect on people, and just like the fact that he's very likable. Just it pained Buck to kill Daniel, and for a guy who never hesitates to give him just a little bit of pause and reluctancy in killing Daniel, that says something.
Yeah.
It's like, and perhaps, I mean, there's a chance maybe he's infected Buck with a conscience, or at the very least, maybe haunted him just a little bit, because Buck genuinely kind of took a liking to this kid, and he was banking on him to really impress, and he's going to move up in the ranks, and just, it's the idea that Buck kind of had a friend. It's like the last time he had a friend, maybe may or may not have been in Wesley to some degree, and, he kind of had in Daniel, and just not now, nothing.
No, and you remember have you heard about the behind the scenes that originally Daniel was going to live and has had a few scenes in episode 8, and then it was until they decided last minute to go with Daniel's death.
No,
And
I didn't hear that. No.
yeah, so basically Daniel originally wasn't going to die.
Hmm.
Buck was going to let him go, and then Daniel was going to have a few scenes in episode 8. But I think late in the production process, like, you know what, let's just like his death was just CGI'd, and Michael Gandolfini was like, yeah, no, that's right for the character, because that's really should be at the end of him. And where else does the character go? And I think that's really interesting to think about. Then, like what's like for the actor who plays Buck, Artie Fusion, like when he does his report back to Kingpin, sort of what emotions does he have to play differently versus if he had let Daniel lived?
That is interesting.
Yeah.
I had no idea about that. All right. Okay, with that, let's talk about our blinding moments of awesome.
Yes.
Let's set the ambiance.
Blonde Matt Murdock.
So let's set the ambiance.
Oh, I get that. That's me then. Okay. Well,
No. I mean, I'm trying to. Can we get a clip? Do we have a clip?
I don't know why you guys want me to play it twice.
Oh, wait. Did you hear any of that, Rohit?
Blind Matt Murdock. Yeah, I did.
Crap. Sorry, folks. That's on me. Sorry.
Man. Anyway,
I'm having bad technical problems. It's a very bad day, folks. Anyways, go on. Just tell them. But actually, wait. I gotta.
Sorry about the interruption, folks.
No, it's fine. Okay, let me. Actually, wait. I think I go first. Actually, yeah, I go first.
okay.
All right. So, my blinding moment of awesome was Kingpin and Karen Page in the jail cell. Their big interaction.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so this was I love this. I was on the edge of my seat, which is usually kind of a good kind of signifier for blinding moment when I'm just sucked in. The second time, he and Karen Page have ever had a scene together.
Yeah,
it's already pretty big, and the fact that just again the scrawny Karen Page just still holds all the power, just like she did the first time she had her scene with the Kingpin, where she was holding a big trump card of Wesley and everything.
mm-hmm.
And so again, I just love that emotionally she dwarfs him, despite Kingpin having all the power and having her at his mercy and everything, having he's got his finger on the scale, all this, and he's like she sees right through him. He's in such a vulnerable state. He's in such a vulnerable state, despite the big move. The big moves that he's been able to make here, and she just calls him out on it, and and how she can just see right through him, and just the fact that Kingpin is like coming to gloat, which is so beneath him, and he would. I'm not saying Kingpin can't be petty and awesome like that, but still, it's like him at this moment. You can kind of see it in the performance, which I think D'Onofrio conveyed so well. Like, just what did you do it for, love? Ha! The fake laugh, all that.
Yeah, no, that was an interesting thing to see what D'Onofrio do, because it's like Kingpin is trying to like do like a fake laugh as a mockery towards Karen, but it almost feels like he's like inadvertently mocking himself by
yeah, it's like the irony in what he's saying. Like he's laughing at doing something out of love. I mean, Kingpin, your whole character was defined by that. And again, he's just kind of, he's just trying to drive the knife in because he's hurting. And, of all the people, he's always wanted to hurt Karen Page back for what she did to Wesley and everything. Because think about it. She's taken Wesley from me. I have this great line when he walks in, like, you've taken many people I love from, something along the lines of, you've taken many things I care about away from me.
Mm-hmm.
So, she's taken Wesley from him. She manipulated his mother, which, I mean, she told him about in Daredevil season 3. So, I mean, he knows this.
Yes.
So, so she's, he's always had this grudge. And again, so we kind of, what I really love, the reason this is my blind moment is I kind of got an answer to the age old question you and I talked about a while back, the whole, like, Kingpin's philosophy on the women and children thing. And like in that scene in season 3, how far would he have gone? And I like to think, based on this, then he would not have done what he does here. But after losing Vanessa, absolutely he would do what he does here.
Oh, most definitely.
So that's the thing. So it's like this whole, this Karen, again, Deborah Ann Wool is so awesome. And she's like, I've never seen you scared before. I kind of like it, which is awesome. Yeah. And just Kingpin strangling her, which again, there's your payoff to the original season 3 question. Like, oh God, this is what it would look like if he attacked her. And it's like, oh, it's not fear, it's order. It's just great. And like she's not, but the fact that despite him doing this, like she is showing no fear at all, just saying, you took it too far and you know it. The city knows it, and they're gonna, basically just saying your empire's crumbling beneath your fist, and he knows that she's right. Just oh my god, it's just great, and like he's just hiding behind all. You get one phone call, choose it wisely. Just Kingpin, he has all this power, and yet he knows, okay, he wants there to be no wiggle room for like Daredevil or to rally everyone. He wants to make sure this gets done legally, that's this has to be done legally, and that's where Matt Murdock kind of has Kingpin hamstrung potentially. It's like he's trying to do this by the book, and that means Matt Murdock is like the silver bullet.
Yeah. Most
yep. And at the end of our scene, we just have this. You're right, Fisk is going to need a really good lawyer. At the end of this, I look at Karen. After all, she smiles. Like after this, like she's kind of like, hey, she knows that she's rattling his cage. She knows that he's on the back foot. He's just making big moves he would never do before. It's like it should be terrified, but Karen at this stage, I mean, she's besties with the Punisher. This is a typical Tuesday for her.
Oh man, yeah, that's God. These people have not had easy lives.
No, they haven't. She grabs coffee with the Punisher on the regular.
Yep.
All right. So what's your moment, Rohith?
Well, after Karen went through a day, went through processing in her jail cell, a old friend comes by to see her, and it is Chief of Detectives Brett Mahoney.
Yeah,
that's right, folks, Brett freaking Mahoney.
Finally,
it's when I saw Brett, I thought, the meme where it's like long, like old fan favorite character comes back, and then below it's the Return of the King. That applies for Brett freaking Mahoney, man. God, the actor who's played Brett, he does not look like he's aged much, but as the saying goes, black don't crack.
It's also been 7 years, so any aging be minor.
True. It felt like just classic, Netflix Daredevil, Brett and Karen's interaction, and I'm just glad he's alive and kicking, and there's a reason why he hasn't been so active. He's probably just doing a lot of paperwork and bureaucracy, and I'm just glad to see him. I thought he was gonna free Karen out, but he just let her out to see her boo Daredevil, so it's nice.
Her boo.
Yeah, her boyfriend, her partner, her sweet thing, her little devil boy.
The devil on her shoulder.
Little Nicky.
What?
The Adam Sandler movie.
No, I know. What? That's your pull, Little Nicky?
Well, we're going with devil themed stuff, so.
Okay. Anyway. Yeah, no, it's an excellent return for him. Just when she needs a friend, and it's like in the age without a foggy, of all the great Daredevil supporting characters. I mean, Brett Mahoney's a welcome face, and again was deeply missed in the first season.
Yeah, all we need now is Ellison next season, baby.
Yeah, well, speaking of that brings us to the Braille Trail.
Oh boy.
So I felt bad because I realized this after we did the podcast. I forgot to include in episode 6. We have Ellison on BB Urich's contact. That she was texting. She was about to text Ellison, the false lead that Daniel Blake gave her.
Oh, I didn't even think.
Yeah, his name. It's like you can see. It's like she's texting Ellison directly.
Oh, I honestly thought that was Karen Page under an alias.
No, I know. Well, I mean, now, oh man, don't make me. Why can't you just let me have it be Ellison? Because it said Ellison. Let's just have it be Ellison.
I mean, it could be. It's like. I just figure, like,
leading to the Bolton anyway, and Ellison, he loved Ben Urich. I'm sure it would be favorable to his family
because BB is working with Karen, so I figure Karen would be the first to know of any intel on Kingpin.
Or maybe Karen directed her to, hey, you're somebody I trust with the news.
Yeah, but the way things ended in season 3, it's like, I mean, Ellison did protect Karen when she turned herself in.
They mended fences at the end of
Mended
season 3,
fences,
man. Come on. They were fine at the end of 3.
Yeah. I guess also, like, would Ellison want to, like, be the center of the mayor's ire, considering, like, how much he was scared of, like, for his staff in season 3?
Yeah, but he never bent to corruption, though, man.
Well, he never been to corruption, but I just feel like, I don't know. I feel like when you have like families whose loved ones died, you know, when you got involved with Kingpin or against the Kingpin, you know, I feel like I'd be hesitant to kind of have a direct, you know, approach to him being mayor. Maybe you can touch stories on the side that deal indirectly with what Kingpin's doing, but
I'm just saying, regardless, it's Kingpin versus the media. I mean, the story's gonna get out if it's leaked, so it can't really just like directly blame one person. It's gonna be,
Well, I mean, we know that as logical, rational people, but Wilson Fisk is a guy who takes things personally, and like he freaking, you know, broke the spine and killed the surgeon that did all he could to save Vanessa.
Well, yeah, but again, that's now. This was like, I don't know. Okay, well, fine. But now he would, yes, but still, I mean, this is before they know like all the crazy stuff. This was like the episode where that started, so they didn't know like Kingpin was that unstable.
I feel like the rumors that could be made of Kingpin would reflect his level of instability, but
I'm just saying it's like a too big to contain. It's out there. I mean, it's about the leak versus like who the leak is, where the leak is going.
yeah.
So I think Ellison, just the New York Bulletin's fine, but I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
The point being, Ellison, or I guess at least a nod to Ellison, we had last episode. So let's just get that in there. Yeah. Okay, Brett Mahoney at the 15th precinct, chief. So he's was he chief detective?
Chief of detectives.
Chief of detectives.
Yes.
Which is great. He keeps promoting upward. Which I forget if by the end of Punisher, because that's the last time we saw Brett Mahoney. He was in the Punisher show.
Oh, that's right. I'm like
I forget it. I think he's in both seasons of the Punisher. I know he's in at least. I know he's at least in season 1. I think he's in both.
Remind me what he because I'm remembering the scene was like he gets like Punisher gets him out of the police van or whatever.
Yeah. So there's a thing where he I want to say in season 2 we had the ambulance thing, but there's a chance maybe it was in 1 where basically they're Frank Castle is dressed like a cop to get out of the hospital, and basically he and Mahoney are kind of like not cuffed together. I forget if they're cuffed together, but essentially they're stuck in the ambulance together. When it goes down, there's a firefight. So I can't remember if that was. I think because but Mahoney was like doing an investigation in season 1 when we were kind of doing the Madani plot, and then. Yeah, wait, no, that's it. Yeah, okay, I remember now. Yeah, so we had the ambulance thing in season 2 when Mahoney was there because we had the gag in the hospital where we had like all 3 strong women that loved that were very fond of the Punisher. You had Karen Page, you had Dina Madani, and you had Amy, you had the girl, and all 3 of them were like they were bickering over the injured Punisher who had like the crisis of conscience because of what Russo faked him killing people and everything, which was kind of bull crap. It was from the comics, but anyway. Point being, that led to the Mahoney, we dressed him up as a cop and he left, and it was the whole Mahoney thing. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the last time we saw Mahoney was there, and I think just he had a brief role in the first season of the Punisher. The point being, he's been around. Now, Turk Barrett was also in the Punisher. That's the last time we saw him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I forget if Turk Barrett popped up in the 3rd season of Jessica Jones as well, but I know he was in the Punisher. Anyway, but yeah, so the point being, Mahoney, and I believe he was. I want to say he was chief of detectives in the Punisher, but maybe he got a promotion since. So I don't know. Okay, we confirm that Charles threatened Jessica Jones, which is why Luke Cage took the presumably Black Ops kind of mission. He took an overseas mission of some kind. That's all we say. He took a mission overseas, made Black Ops work regardless. A part of me wonders with that, Could he be in Asia, perhaps, with Iron Fist? Could be anywhere with Iron Fist. I'm just saying it might be appropriate with the Kunlun of it all. I don't know.
Here, I guess my question is like, why? Like, where's Danny in all this? Like,
I mean, maybe he's with them. Not being paid, God forbid, but
I mean, I just feel like if Luke is being coerced, it's like, hey, it's either you or your wife.
Yeah.
And obviously, he doesn't want his wife, whose powers are limited,
Mhm.
and he wants to stay at home to take care of Danielle. And I guess it kind of explains why Jessica has that nice of a house.
Yeah.
Because a private investigator salary does not pay for that kind of nice house.
Well, no, I think Luke Cage. Remember, Luke Cage is raking in the dough from the Harlem's Paradise. So that's
I feel like if the government approached him and coerced him to like, how much of his assets had already been seized by the government.
Well, that is an excellent. You're right. That's an excellent question. So we don't know what his finances are looking like, depending on like he could have had the house before the club, or like the real question is like, how long has this been going on for? That's the real question. Like, was it while Jessica was with child? Was it after they had the kid? Like, like did they have the house set up, or like did they have the money to get this house because of what Luke Cage is doing?
How old is Danielle? Because
Danielle's that thing. She's like, well, you tell me you saw the kid. How old do you think the kid is? Like 4?
4 to 6.
That's what I'm saying, between 4 to 6. So I mean, that means roughly.
Well, because like what year? Because like it's like what? So she's got to be born. So presume. So I guess at that point, both Luke and Jessica survived the blip.
That would, that would be the suggestion there. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. Unless it's, well, you gotta remember, okay, so Jessica Jones, the show, presumably ended in 2019. So season 3 was like 2019. That's the last time we saw Luke Cage as well. Okay, and Infinity War happens in, okay, give or take with the whole.
Just because my always assumption is that the Netflix seasons actually take place in the year prior to when they debut. So like everything, all the Marvel Netflix stuff happens before Infinity War. Infinity War happens.
Well, that's the thing. That's presumably, yeah, you're right about that. So yeah,
because then you have the 5-year time.
Yeah,
and then how much has passed since Endgame to now? Like,
I can't remember what the last time I kept track of was Hawkeye. Like what our whole year.
No, because I think it's been 4 years. I think we're 2026 or 2027. Actually, we might have caught up to like present. Yeah, so it's like,
okay. Well, it's an Endgame is 2023, despite it being like 2019. So,
and I don't think 5 years has elapsed since 20. I think it's been more like, I could look up, when does Daredevil Born Again season 2 take place in MCU? 2027.
Nah.
Okay.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Because always like it's like a year or so removed from where we are currently, but
Yeah, so it's actually surprisingly, the MCU is kind of getting in line with our current timeline.
Yeah.
So 2027. So 4 years from Endgame plus 5 years from Infinity War. So 9 years.
Basically 4 years. So go on.
Yeah. So basically, like Jessica and Luke would have been alive post snap to have had Danielle.
Well, if they needed a motivation to have a child,
I mean, because they would have had to be in live. For 4 to 6 years, they both of them would have to have been active during the blitz.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
All right. So this is the kind of stuff I wish they would acknowledge, like where everyone was during the blip or everything, like all this like expanded material. If they could just like have a direct, like, okay, here again, we have like the little flip show in Endgame with all the people that were blipped and not.
Why doesn't the official MCU handbook just identify who's active during the snap, who wasn't?
See, the problem is when they actually put out that official handbook, but then I forget if they acknowledged the Netflix stuff or not in that handbook, because I think it was before that the order came down for that. So that's what the problem is. That handbook is severely outdated.
All right.
that's the problem because they acknowledged some of the Daredevil stuff, but they didn't really. I think it was Daredevil by proxy of Echo and Spider Man. It was like the it was always implied, but it was never.
Yeah.
Anyway, okay, let's see. So the point being, we mentioned Luke Cage, and he's basically taking the bullet for Jessica, and that's why he's not. That's why he's not in this season.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I'm pretty sure. I think it's pretty safe to say Charles is lying about sending those guys over to send her a message. It was like Charles was underhanded, and he was just trying to either kill her or just like have more leverage or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Let's see. So this was nice. Jessica Jones meets Cherry. So we have Cherry in the episode, but more so, this is like a nod to Jessica Jones' relationship with the NYPD. Cherry really liked Jessica Jones, and he's heard her reputation. You got to remember, the NYPD, they kind of grew a begrudging respect for Jessica Jones through her series. And we had the Detective Costa, by Jessica Jones seasons 2 and 3, and that was kind of like her main detective guy, who I believe was at the 15th precinct with Mahoney and Cherry and whoever. So
Yeah.
I believe Cherry's with the 15th because I know Daredevil's very friendly with the 15th precinct, which is kind of where we opened with Born Again. So I'm assuming all of our the 15th was like our Hell's Kitchen precinct, so I'm pretty sure it's all the 15th precinct.
I think you're right.
So Karen, I love this detail. Karen in the NYPD shirt, which is identical to the pilot of Daredevil, where she was wearing like the NYPD shirt when she was processed after being framed for murder. We call back the stolen earring, which I think was like a random detail, and I was impressed. Like, okay, we're addressing it. Okay.
Yeah.
Bullseye saves the governor, which it may or may not may impress Mr. Charles and maybe by proxy Val. And look, I'm not going to be one of the guys saying thunderbolts instantly, but just with this whole like Mr. Charles recruiting people thing, I don't think it's that far off.
Yeah.
Let's see. We reference Father, Bullseye having killed Father Lantom and Ray Nadeem.
Yeah.
Yeah. Bibi, she mentions, she wants justice for Ben Urich, her Uncle Ben.
Yeah.
We have Lady Muse set up with Heather Glenn, spiraling out of control. She's increasingly more and more unhinged and crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see, Matt Murdock's dramatic courtroom appearance, which is kind of a runner. He has like the dramatic entrances, between Spider-Man, but specifically in the courtroom, She-Hulk, and this.
Yep.
Let's see, Daniel Blake. Now, here's something I predict. Okay, so Daniel Blake mentioned there was a body buried in the Catskills to Bibi. I think that may help take Fist down. I'm not saying it's gonna be like the silver bullet, but I think it might help. Because if they find the Northern Star, captain on there, it might be something. Well, no, the first mate. I mean, there's the first, especially since they have like the taped confession, then the guy's dead. I don't know. It's something.
Yeah.
Nothing concrete, so I can't say it's like full on going to be anything. But it just she knows that there's a body buried in the Catskills. Catskills is kind of like you can kind of narrow down the Catskills.
Hopefully.
Yeah. Let's see. So Matt back in Clinton Church and the red lighting.
Yep, that beautiful red lighting.
Love it. And just the general history with Jessica Jones, which is well represented in the fact that she comes back to save them in the church. So it's kind of nice, and that's kind of where we end things off there.
Yep.
Did you have anything else? Any other things I missed with the Braille Trail?
I mean, like, there's acknowledgement of Karen's past with her brother.
You had another Frank Castle mention.
Yeah.
Well, you're right though. The whole Kevin thing, it was really despicable what Heather Glenn was saying too about the whole, perhaps her being violent. Clearly, she wasn't. Just a really mean thing to say.
Oh, most definitely. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
the whole, the BS, like psych eval thing, which Karen called out pretty instantly, which we set up with the Jack Duquesne, psych eval.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Guess there's nothing else in terms of the Braille Trail. But
Oh, actually, one last thing I can think of.
Yeah.
Cole North again, especially with a season 3 coming. I'm getting the sense that we're building some redemption for Cole North.
he'll do one good thing and then he'll get murked off by Powell.
Yeah, there you go. Speaking of which, again, Matt Murdock and putting Powell on the stand, and there's tension there, and we mentioned that Cole North killed Hector Ayala.
Yeah.
It's a little White Tiger reference.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's all I got.
Yeah, I'm very excited to see how the season ends. I have no idea how the season ends. I think that there is a heavily rumored conclusion, which I'm just curious to see how we get to that conclusion. And then the next season is going to be so interesting.
It is, and I mean, look, they've said that maybe again, there's no. You're right. The way things are going and just the dramatic, 3 acts and just the way we had the original Daredevil. So season 3 could quite possibly be the end, especially if we're going where we're going at the end of this season. There is, maybe a logical end you could have. And plus we have the new Spider-Man movie, which may or may not fill in a blank there. So it is, it is unclear, but Daredevil, as we've seen in the comics, he goes through a lot, and he goes through a lot of transitional phases. Yeah. And we take them all over the place, and we somehow find a way back for him.
Yeah, maybe if Daredevil season 3 is the end of the show, it doesn't mean Daredevil is a character. He can still supporting characters in other films, or he could have his own film trilogy. It'd be a very relatively cheap. Maybe Daredevil, like for the new status quo, like post season 3, he ends up in San Francisco.
That is the thing, but it's unclear. Regardless, yeah, I mean, again, right now they're going with, it depends on how the audience likes it. I mean, the audience likes it, but the problem is the audience is waning. And it's not necessarily like the reflection on the show. It's just a reflection on streaming trends, as Rohith laid out earlier. So that's kind of that is the unfortunate thing. But we don't want the show to overstay its welcome either. Now, mind you, I don't think Daredevil would ever be in danger of outstaying its welcome, but that's it's kind of hard to say. Daredevil kind of lucked out in that season 3. They had a really concrete ending in terms of they never came back. They ended in a really good place, and we gave it some time. We actually were able to come back to it.
The thing is, if it ever continues, I think because season 4, I remember like the plans for season 4, if there were materialized, it would have been like
the Owl, Bullseye. We had elements
and Typhoid Mary.
Yeah,
it's like. I think it would like for Daredevil to kind of have things to do outside of his dam with Kingpin, because if here's the thing, if it ends at season 3, then all 6 seasons of Daredevil has pivoted in one degree or to another on Kingpin and Daredevil.
Mm-hmm.
And as much as Kingpin is sort of said his Joker, Two-Face, whatever big bad like Kingpin is a very, very pivotal character to Daredevil. But there are a lot of Daredevil run. There are a lot of portions or components or long stretches of classic modern Daredevil runs where Kingpin is not a character or force. Daredevil has his other villains, other adventures. Like I just kind of hope that if Daredevil gets to continue on with the season 4 or with films, that Daredevil can have other villains to fight and contest with, and have them be as noteworthy and significant as Kingpin and Bullseye.
Yep, that is the hope. Yeah. All right, yeah. In this episode, again, this was a really good kind of exploration of the world. It was a solid episode building up our finale, and hopefully they'll, again, based on how great the rest of the season's been, we'll really bring it home and do something really memorable. And remember, the old trend used to be like the episode 8 and 9 mark with Daredevil used to be the most impressive. Now, mind you, this is this is more of the ending, so we can't really say it's like by that certain episode marker, but it's maybe for old time's sake we pull out something really special for episode 8. Who knows?
Mm-hmm.
All right. That's all for now. Until the next daring installment of Discerning Daredevil, Born Again.
Fuck you, Buck.
Ha!